Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. Today's podcast is really, really special to me. It was a recording with my friend, Dr. Gregg Jantz, who is honestly a mental health warrior. He is OG mental health warrior. He has helped honestly, probably tens of thousands of people. He has a center in Edmonds, Washington, called the Center for Hope. He works with people dealing with addiction, PTSD, eating disorders, you name it. And I've known him for almost 20 years. And on July 4th, tragically, he was killed in an accident. And I just heard the news yesterday, and I am reeling. Our community has lost just such an incredibly special person. The mental health community has lost somebody really special, and his wife, LaFon, who is a breast cancer survivor. Can't imagine what she's going through. So I wanted to replay this episode for you because it was really cute how it came about. So I was at church at a function, and Greg and his wife were there also. It ended up being a luncheon, and we sat together at the same table, and we were just laughing. My husband, Steve, and Dr. Jantz and LaFon. And I said, gosh, I'd love to get you back on the podcast. And he's like, oh, I'd love that too. And then at the end of the lunch, he slipped me a note and he said, this is what I'd like to talk about. And on the note, it said, how to eliminate toxic people from your life for improved health. And I thought, oh my gosh, perfect. That's exactly what I want to talk about. So that's what this podcast is. It's how to take a stand with the toxic people in your life, figure out how to move them to a different circle in your life. Because in the end, when you take steps of boldness like this, you end up becoming a much healthier person physically and mentally and spiritually. So I hope you enjoy this. Sadly, the last recording I'll have with Dr. Jantz. Again, he was a really special person in my life. I met him, as I mentioned, 20 years ago. We were both in the green room at NBC here in Seattle, and we were kind of talking and looking at each other, and we finally realized, oh my gosh, we know each other from church, but we'd never met. So from then on out, we just had such a special relationship, including his wife, LaFon, and my husband, Steve. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. It's really meant so much to me. Enjoy. Dr. Jantz, welcome back to Why Did I Get Cancer? I am giggling because how this podcast even happened today is you passed me a note after church a couple of Sundays ago. We were standing in line getting coffee. I was talking to you and your wife. And my husband was there too. And we're all just gabbing about the podcast and your appearance and how it's one of my most downloaded episodes. And I said, we should do this again. And then about 10 minutes later, you said, I think I have a topic, and you handed me this note. You said, look at it later.
That's right. Put it in your pocket.
And I got in my car, and it said the impact that toxic people can have on your life and on your health. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is a phenomenal topic. So welcome, Dr.
Good to see you today. And I hear you today, Deborah. And yes, I think toxic people is a bigger issue than maybe what we realize.
Yeah. Well, unpack that a little bit for me, because at any given moment, we can all say, yeah, I've got a toxic family member or even somebody who cut me off in traffic. Is
Yeah.
that considered a toxic
It
person?
might be. Well, we all have at least one. Some of us may have more. Maybe you're in the workplace, or maybe it is a relative. But a toxic person is one that devalues you. When you're around them, you usually feel, I'm going to use a psychological term, slimed. You feel slimed. And what I mean is, it's
Yeah.
like, I just feel icky when I'm around this person. And you can't always put your finger on it and go, what is it? But maybe you don't feel heard. You don't feel listened to. Maybe you notice there's some frustration or anger that seems to come up within you. Or maybe you feel afraid. And every time I'm around this person, I feel anxious. And you don't really know for sure what's going on. But that can be the effects of a toxic person. Now, just imagine if you live with one, or you live with a person that in the workplace and you're with them every day. Over time, that does have an effect on our health and well-being and our sense of self.
Right, right. I mean, it's got to have a huge impact on your health. If you are constantly in a state of, you want to get away from this person, but yet they're your
Right.
boss or they're your coworker and you're on projects with them all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, your stress level, so your cortisol is going to be pumping, your stress hormones pumping through your veins all the time. That impact
Yes.
cannot be good.
And so here's a couple things to look at. Maybe you feel like, I think I might have a toxic person. Well, are you, besides avoiding them, do they use some brain space? Are you thinking about them? Do you find yourself irritated and you're thinking about them, but you don't really want to, but you're thinking about them, or you're thinking about how to avoid them, or how am I going to deal with them? The toxic person in your life may try to exert power and control, so it can be quite emotionally abusive. Are they a person that's constantly demanding, and you notice, wow, I can't handle them, and those are the feelings. So, is your sleep disruptive? Did you find that you sometimes maybe even dream about them, and you don't want to dream about them, but you notice that it really is affecting your sleep, and you feel like, wow, my appetite may be affected when I'm around them, or I know I have to be. It might be one or two extremes. If I'm eating because I'm anxious, or I just lose my appetite because I have to deal with this person.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that is hugely impactful on everything. So let's just even unpacking the sleep piece of it. If you're not sleeping well, you can't be well. So if this person is taking up headspace as you are trying to fall asleep, is that your issue or their issue?
Well, I think two words: personal power. We can give away our sense of personal power inadvertently. We didn't really want to, but if you're consumed by them, or you're absorbed and you're thinking about them, it's as though that gets kind of what I'll call a stronghold. It's there, and maybe you feel maybe this is a toxic person that has deeply, deeply wounded you. And they could have wounded you through words, through physical. Obviously, a person that practices any kind of abuse is a toxic person. So, but maybe the wound or the trauma is pretty deep with this person. And so it's like, I've never been able to shake this off because the pain seems so deep. Or maybe over the years, things have compounded, and it's just caused you to feel a lot of, maybe it's resentment. Maybe you realize, wow, I've kind of become embittered because of this toxic person in my life. So that will affect sleep. That will affect also other relationships. And, Deborah, when I think about toxic people, if we're carrying around a lot of that hurt constantly, then it does affect our other relationships.
It does. It can't help but affect them. I think that, I've been around toxic people before, and I actually can feel my personality change a little bit.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad you mentioned that, because here's what might happen. If you're around a toxic person, you may suddenly feel younger, or you feel more, maybe a little less immature, and they just cause you to feel that you're not as worthy, and so you
Yes.
feel less of a person. Now,
Yes. Yeah.
sometimes they do it in words, sometimes it's just their presence.
Sometimes it is just their presence, and you just feel something coming
Yes,
off of them that makes you feel like you're, 5 years old and you're in trouble.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
and this could be we have to look at this through all the lenses of the whole person. So there could be a real spiritual issue, and there could be really issues that are related to personality, even personality disorder. A toxic person could be a narcissistic personality, and it's all about them. It's all about their power and control. A toxic person could be somebody with an addiction. An
Okay.
addiction, we tend then to be more abusive towards others. I know that's hard to hear for some, but addiction really does change a person, changes their personality. And so those are just a couple things to look at and go, do I live with somebody or have somebody in life that really there is an addiction issue?
Right. And I mean, and I could see if this is at the workplace, I mean, perhaps there is a way out. I mean, maybe you don't want to quit your job, but maybe you can get transferred to another department or whatever it is. But what if this is a family member, but maybe you only see them a couple times a year? Is that something you can just kind of,
Okay.
do some self-care and kind of, prepare yourself for somebody like that?
I am glad you mentioned that. Family members, holidays, times when you go,
Holidays.
oh
Yep.
no, and it may be 2 months away and you're already thinking about what am I going to do?
What am I going to say when they say
Yeah.
X?
So I
Yes.
always like, if possible, to decide ahead of time, right down to the details. It sounds kind of funny at first, but even your personal presentation, the clothes you wear, you want to feel really comfortable in you. So this is not the time to try out a new pair of shoes that may be hurting your feet, right? I want you to feel good.
That's a good tip,
I
though.
want you
Yeah.
to feel good about yourself.
Right.
We're back to sleep and nutrition. I want you to have some good self-care, but also think about who can I, if I'm going to an event, who can I have with me that in a way kind of is a bodyguard? In other words, wherever
Oh.
I am physically, they're just always next to me. Okay. And I have maybe a certain code, like this is getting to be too much. Maybe I don't pull my ear and it's like, okay, that's the code. That
That's the
it's
code.
time to make an escape. So, but you've got to
Yeah.
pre-plan these. Also, pre-plan what topic you're willing to talk about, and what are the topics that, if you're baited on a certain topic, whatever it is, that you're not going to engage with. Okay, so you
Yeah.
really have to, in a way, rehearse and be prepared, and you have to decide ahead of time. Okay, this is going to be a little challenging. It's going to be a little awkward at times, but I am going to handle it differently this time. And I am going to not give away my personal sense of power. Okay. It does not have to diminish my self-esteem. And so, but and even the person that's going to be with you, I don't know if it's a spouse or whoever it is that's going to be with you.
Right.
They need to know also, like, how to interject and even change a topic.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. And maybe they can see the direction
Yeah.
things are going, the upcoming political cycle, or how you feel
Yeah.
about, this and that going on in the world. And somebody just says, hey, let's move on to less volatile topics, because some people just really enjoy getting into the debate.
Well, and this may be
And yeah.
yes, exactly, Deborah. This may be a person also that they like conflict and they like to push your buttons.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're just not going to have your buttons pushed. You're not going to respond in the same way. You're not going to be angry. You're not going to start crying. Okay, you're going to handle this one differently. And so that's where we want to maybe rehearse your person that's, I call it a bodyguard, but your person that's with you, they need to know what are the topics, what are ways that they can interject. But don't go into these situations alone if you know maybe that you're going to be a target of emotional abuse, if there's still a lot of pain in that relationship. Find a way not to do that alone.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think you're just going to feel so much stronger if, if there's two of you kind of going head to head with this, it probably really helps.
It does. And that's just a protection. Yeah. Now, we also know we need to check our heart. If you have a person that, they've been a toxic person in your life a long time and it is painful. Well, one of the things you may have to look at is, how am I going to start to release some of that pain? How am I going to drain some of this off of me? And I may have to look at even issues of forgiveness. Am I in a place where I am carrying things that I really do not need to continue to carry because it's poisoning me? And so I know this is...
Boy, that's a tough one. So basically you're saying, you have this interaction with this family member 6 times a year when you see them at events and holidays, but you carry it around. So you're saying you need to forgive them.
I think we need to sometimes work on that. And I say work on it. I think we can make a decision, and maybe it's a re-decision over and over, that I am releasing this. And, if we don't learn that, it continues, and the word I'll use is torture. It continues to torture us. And I don't mean this to sound easy, but I think it's something we need to look at. If we've been deeply wounded and injured, how am I going to release that pain? That doesn't mean that I'm in relationship with this person all the time. It does not mean I'm their best friend, okay? But it's become toxic to me. They're a toxic person, and my response to it becomes toxic. So I've got to look at, what can I do?
Yeah, because you can't control them. Yeah. All you can really control is your reaction to their, I'll just say, bad behavior.
Yes.
And forgiveness. Is forgiveness, you mentioned, you handing away your personal power. Is forgiveness a way to get it back?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. And yes, working on and practicing forgiveness is a way that we regain not only our personal power, but we regain our well-being. We know forgiveness and practicing it is good for our immune system. We know if I struggle with depression or anxiety, I need to always make sure that I am resolving forgiveness in my life. Do I have unforgiveness? If I'm so toxic and it's affecting my immunity, my body's getting sick. So we need to remember, emotions always go somewhere, okay, and they can land in our body and make us sick.
Wow. Okay, so practicing forgiveness can actually improve your immune system.
Absolutely. I see things. This is actually our 40th year at the Center of Place of Hope, and I can tell you, over the years, if there's one single issue that comes up most often for our clients, and it really does revolve around forgiveness, unresolved hurt, unresolved pain. And if I really want to release that baggage, I really want to live differently and feel differently about myself, I do have to figure out forgiveness.
Okay, so forgiveness, and I practice it because I feel like I've struggled with it, and I wonder, is that, did that impact my cancer diagnosis? But sometimes forgiving somebody who has really
Yeah.
hurt you, either physically, mentally, verbally, you name
Yeah.
it, it it could feel like a sign of weakness.
Oh, yeah. It can't. It go, okay, am I giving in to them? And I'm just rolling
Right.
over, going to forgive them. Forgiveness.
Right. I'm a doormat. Yeah.
Yeah. Forgiveness never implies that they're right. Forgiveness does not imply, you know, that in any way you have to be in relationship with them. So I do know, just because I see, if I forgive, I'm going to have healthier other relationships. Unforgiveness can affect my ability to be close and intimate with people. It affects my ability to trust. You've probably met somebody who they're so full of resentment and bitterness. They're looking through the lenses of resentment and bitterness, and they misread people's motives. They think everybody's against them. You say something to them and it totally gets misinterpreted, and you go, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything resembling that. Right.
So they're easy. And one of the ways to see, are you easy to pick up offenses? Are you easily offended? Then that's probably a clue that we need to look at forgiveness.
Oh my gosh. Could you say that again?
Yeah, well, if I'm just so easy to pick up offenses, I'm offended by everybody and everything, right? Somebody, I go, they didn't look at me right, or they didn't smile at me, and you take offense.
Right.
So taking and picking up offenses is going to poison you emotionally, but it's also a sign that there's unforgiveness in your life.
Oh, that is so simple. I mean, it just makes you recognize something that maybe you wouldn't have recognized otherwise.
Right. And you will feel better. I can tell you, forgiveness does impact sleep. It does impact our body and digestion. It affects our posture. You think of an embittered person, you might think of they're all hunched over and they're all stiff. I have seen clients who really worked on forgiveness, and they begin to look at this, and suddenly years of joint pain that maybe was called arthritis and just joint and aches and pains, it's like all that got released from my body.
Really?
And so there is a physical implication. I don't always know what it's going to be, but I know it's going to be positive.
Wow, that is really amazing. So not forgiving somebody, being easily offended, taking things the wrong way, that has to go someplace in our body. And it could go to your joints. It could go to your liver. It could go to your wherever and cause problems.
We do store old hurt and emotions if we do not practice forgiveness or release them. I do see a lot of physical concerns that people bring in. And I'm not saying this is the magical answer for everything, but I'm saying when we address it, we know it will have a positive impact in a person's life. If you're engaging in self-destructive behavior or cutting, hurting yourself, anything that is self-destructive, we do need to look at what is going on in the forgiveness department.
Okay, you guys, I'm doing it. I am doing Kim Rogers' Parify Worm Kit. I honestly have to tell you, I'm a little bit surprised by my behavior. But here's what I mean. Kim Rogers reached out to me about a year ago, and she said, I'd love to be on your podcast. And she talks about worms and parasites inside of our bodies. And I thought, hard pass, honey. And then I started doing a little bit of research, and I thought, oh my gosh, there are symptoms that can be attributed to having worms and parasites in your body. One of them is grinding your teeth, which I thought was fascinating. And then when I did interview Kim on the podcast, she was telling me that we are one of the only countries that doesn't have its citizens regularly deworm and get rid of parasites in our systems. She was also saying, if you have a pet, you've got this problem in your body. So, my husband and I are doing it right now. We started, you start with the full moon. There's more details on Kim's website, but suffice it to say, what she told me is that worms and parasites are more active in our bodies during a time of a full moon. So, we started a couple of days ago, I think May like 13th or something. If you want more information, go to today's show notes. There is a link to check out this worm kit to see what my husband and I are up to. So silly that we're doing this, but I'm actually really liking it. I don't feel bad. Some people can have some symptoms of what Kim calls die off. I haven't experienced anything like that, but I have to say, I think I'll probably make this a, couple of times a year activity like a cocktail party, but no, an activity. So go to today's show notes. If you click on the link, there's already a discount in there for you, and you'll see that if you decide to buy one of the worm kits. Again, I highly recommend it. I'm doing the Parify nut free because it does have some nuts in it. So I'm doing the nut free parasite kit, worm kit. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you try it. Is forgiveness something you've seen in your last 40 years? Something that you need to practice on a daily basis?
I think we do need to be aware of it on a daily basis. We've all been on the receiving end of attacks and things that were unjust and not right. And we live right now in a culture that seems to be a lot of blame, a lot of cancel this, cancel that. And so I'm just saying, don't take that personally. That's probably not about you, but be sure don't to carry around the hurts. So I know personally, though, I didn't realize it for many years, but I know personally the effects of having unforgiveness. And I had a family member that was growing up extremely emotionally abusive, and I didn't realize till many years later, after this person even died, oh my goodness, I started to connect the dots. And I do remember, it's been a few years ago, but I remember writing a forgiveness letter. I go, I got to figure out how to take care of this. I wrote a forgiveness letter, and I went to the gravesite. And
that's powerful.
I read my letter, and then I stuffed it there at the gravesite. I left it there as just a acknowledgement. I'm leaving this behind. So I know personally the effects that unforgiveness can have, and I know the effects that forgiveness can have in a positive way.
Yeah. And forgiving a person, doesn't, as you said, doesn't condone their behavior, but I've heard it said that, not forgiving is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
It's well said.
And
yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a really simple way to look at it.
So this is why
not easy to do.
This is why, look at the potential toxic people in your life and then look at your reaction to it. Because we're only responsible for what we do with it. Have you stored up a lot of emotional injury? Have you suffered a lot with maybe sometimes unexplainable physical issues? And maybe sleep is nightmarish at times. So it's just something to look at and to see if this fits. Because, again, we can only control what we do.
Yeah. And that's, I guess that's where our true power really lies, is that we can only control what's going on in our own yard. Speaking metaphorically, in our own yard, that's all we can control. And to think that we have any control over a person's reaction or how they're going to speak to us. It's not going to happen.
And by the way, we'll always have some toxic people in our life. Okay.
Yep.
And some of them are toxic because it's by intent. They have a malicious intent to be hurtful. That's what they're trying to do. Other people are toxic because sometimes they're really clueless, right? They grew up a certain way. This is the way I've always been. What's wrong with you? This is the way I am. Okay. They're like clueless. Okay. So, but either way, we still have to come back and go, what's my response to this?
Yeah. And I think the hard one for me is when I'm in the middle of that toxic moment of instead of rushing to give a response, I'm working on pushing the pause button and not taking on their
Yeah.
negativity and not taking on their energy. And instead of, responding to their question or whatever it is, or their statement, I might ask them a question. Can you explain what you mean by that? Or, I'll try to reframe it a little bit to just slow it down because I'm a high energy
Yeah.
person and my mind is going. And sometimes I don't do it well, and I just get right in there with them, and we're both slinging mud. So, but if I can push the pause button and maybe ask a question, then it seems to diffuse it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well said.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm learning.
Well,
I'm
we all
learning.
are. And we're always
We
learning
all.
about, okay, who's safe. No, a toxic person's not emotionally safe. And so I would say trust yourself, trust your gut, trust your discernment. If you continually are around a person that is causing you a lot of grief, okay, we don't tell them, hey, you're a toxic person, come on. Right?
Right.
That's not, but we're identifying who these people are, and ask yourself, do I feel emotionally safe around them? Am I trusting them? There are people that may say something to you verbally, and they do something entirely different. They're passive aggressive. Sometimes we're on the receiving end of other people's own anger. They're an angry person. It's nothing to do with you, but you end up being the target. So let's just
Right.
increase our
Right.
awareness of this.
Yeah, and I think awareness is super helpful. And I will say I have attracted my fair share of toxic people
Hmm.
in my life. But really, post cancer, I had the opportunity to make some
Yeah.
decisions about whether or not I wanted to keep some of these toxic relationships. And I'm happy to say I don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
Of course, life just happens and you do have people in your life, and maybe they're family members, maybe they're coworkers, but I have reduced my exposure,
Yes.
if that makes sense,
Yeah.
to these people. And that feels a lot safer now.
That's really good. I like how you put that, reducing the exposure. And that's what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, and you said this so well about we can attract people to us, and if we're unhealthy, we might be attracting other unhealthy people. And
Yep.
cancer can be it's that great awakening that says, what do I need to change? And
Yep.
sometimes it's a change in relationships.
It really is. And that for me, that was, I heard a long time ago, somebody said, people are like elevators. They either take you up or they take you
Yeah.
down. And I thought, okay, after cancer, became very clear what people were elevators taking me up. And those are the people that are in my life now. And those are the people that are part of my inner circle.
Yes.
But, you also, there's some scary moments too of, wow, I'm cutting people out of my life. And so that might be scary during that time, but I would think that would open up some space to really create some great new relationships.
Well, that's the point. Now I can create and maintain other healthy relationships. It makes some space for that. And there is nothing more rewarding than having good, healthy relationships. I was just having the conversation not long ago with my wife and said, really, when it boils down to it, what do we have? Well, we have the quality of our relationships. And so we want to always do a little evaluation and just go, okay, the 5 closest people in my life are 4 of those in the toxic category? Who's influencing my life? And we want to have 2, 3 that are really close to us, that we really trust. But who's the core group in your life, and how are they influencing you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And can I also throw in there, what about toxic things in your life. Maybe
Oh,
it's not people, but you have the news
yeah.
on all day long. You're listening to talk radio, loud music. Can all of those things affect you like a toxic person
I
could?
think they really do add up. And what's my environment feeding me? If I'm on a nonstop news channel, whatever,
Yeah.
and then I end up, because most people right now, when they do that, they end up not feeling any better and they feel more confused. It's like,
Yes,
okay,
that's very true.
now I don't even know what's true. All right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that sense of distrust is a big theme right now. Be careful about what you're uh, feeding yourself in your environment. We believe here at the center that environment's really important. So we even do our rooms and our environment in a certain way. We believe that music's important. We want to create more of a healing environment, even right down to the lighting and what is the lighting. All that affects us.
That is great. So while you're making these changes and, reevaluating some of your toxic relationships, it sounds like you need to you work on your home environment
Yeah,
also.
if you're in a home environment that is extremely cluttered, disorganized, dirty. Okay, I was just talking with a person, met with a person has been given a cancer diagnosis, and the home would probably look like a hoarder's home, and just
Okay.
everything is disarray, stacks of things everywhere, and everything in that person's life seems out of order. And so I need to create order and order in my space. That's a part of my wellness. If I
Wow, that's
have a stack
good.
of things that I'm avoiding and I keep adding to it, I'm creating more and more mental clutter. And a lot of that really does have a negative effect on us.
Boy, it really does. And clutter, I just know that when I get home and, I'm just kind of flinging stuff on the counters that I've just gone to Costco and there's just
Yes.
stuff everywhere. I'm grateful that I did the Costco run and I have all the food, but it makes me a little anxious to just look at the piles of stuff and the things I need to unpack and all of that. So can your home environment bump up your anxiety?
Yes, because it's going to create order or a sense of disorder. So I would say even how we are we letting natural light in? Okay, not when it's time to
Oh,
sleep, but some tend to pull all the blinds, and I hide away, and I go on a screen, and I waste my evening in social media.
yeah.
And the question is, do I feel better or worse? Well, we already know if you already struggle with some depression, anxiety, the more time I spend online, the worse I feel. I don't feel any better.
Really? Okay.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I can feel that. I feel
yeah,
that too. I feel like it can be such a dark hole scrolling or gaming, right?
yeah,
I mean, I know people who get home from work and they go into their gaming room and they're in there until midnight.
yeah. So that escapism behavior, which is avoidism behavior, can become addictive behavior. So the person that is social media or digital addiction, the gaming, I will tell you, gaming disorder is real.
Really?
It is real.
Okay.
There are those that is the 32-year. I'm just going to make up a typical one, but a
Yeah.
32-year-old male who's gaming every night, living in the parents' basement. I know
Yeah.
of a situation very similar to that, and the mom, yeah, he's in his 30s. The mom will come down and bring him dinner so he can keep gaming.
Oh boy.
See what happens? Okay, that's not a healthy situation.
That is so not healthy. Oh my gosh. So basically completely sedentary. You're
Yeah.
sitting in the dark. Mommy's still
Oh,
waiting on
yes.
you. Yeah. So, when I just had an interview earlier today with a world-renowned cancer doctor, and we were talking about how sedentary people have become
Oh, yeah.
and how terrible it is for your health. And when you look at all these young people now with cancers, it's the fastest growing group, one of the fastest growing
Yes.
groups, younger people like 20s to 40s with cancer.
Yes.
And she was saying, processed foods, being sedentary, a lot of EMFs, sticking your cell phone in your back pocket and, just letting it touch your body all day long, or,
Yeah.
we've really gotten unhealthy. Yeah.
No, that's a
Yeah.
really good point and something to look at. So we need other people, but we need healthy people, and we need activity. We certainly need good nutrition. And what are we feeding our mind with? So important. And by the way, it is easy just to escape. To go, grab this right here, and I can get lost in it for a long time. And it's like like any other addiction. You go, well, how long were you on social media? Oh, it was an hour. Well, it was really 5 hours, right? It's like, how many beers did you drink? Oh, just one, but it was a 6-pack. So we get lost.
Right, we do. And I learned this when I was getting my nutrition degree, is that my professors would tell me people always underreport their exercise, or overreport their exercise and underreport their food. So when you're doing the survey, I ran for 10 miles. No, you ran for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we're not always the best judge of ourselves when it comes to our healthy behaviors. And I can see, I take this phone. I like to look at recipes. I like to look at pictures of rescue dogs. And next thing you know, 2 hours are gone.
Yes. And I'm not saying having some time is wrong, but we lose our boundaries around technology. And so as we look at toxic people, we got to also look at boundaries in our life, boundaries in relationships. Are we letting the good or bad in relationships? Boundaries in what we're allowing to come through our eyes and social media, boundaries around our nutrition, so having a sense of impulse control. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes a toxic person is very impulsive. We call it low impulse control. They're just acting out, saying things verbally, and they're hurtful. Yeah. Well, we need to ask ourselves, how's my own impulse control? Am I controlling my impulses related to food, alcohol, gaming? How's my impulse control? Do I have good boundaries around it?
Right. And it's all going to impact your health at some level.
Yes.
Okay. So you've given me and us, all of us listening, so much to think about today. And I wanted to just tiptoe into anxiety. Okay. And I loved your book, The Anxiety Reset, that came out maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. Yeah. And so I have to think that a lot of the behaviors we see today with a lot of phone use, watching too much news, getting too involved in, the news cycle, and, there's a, presidential campaign. I mean, it's just like all the things that could just derail you. And you can probably move pretty easily into anxiety.
Yes.
And I've got to imagine that has such an impact on your health.
Yes. And we live in an anxious time. And by that, I mean, anxiety is the number one non-medical diagnosis right now. So anxiety disorder, there's social anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety, panic attacks. So anxiety comes in different flavors, but a sense of just anxiety that you can't seem to brush it off. It's always there. You kind of wake up with that pit in your stomach. So anxiousness. Right. And this is where I say a toxic person probably can create a lot of anxiety if we allow them.
Yes.
Now, by the way, if it's anxiety, because anxiety is different than worry. Worry is mental. Worry is what I'm thinking. And I can dwell enough on worry that I start to have physical symptoms. And so anxiety usually means there's a physical symptom. I might occasionally get sweaty palms. It disrupts my sleep. I wake up in the night and my heart's racing. I have trouble with concentration. I can't seem to concentrate because I'm anxious. I have a hard time making a decision. Anxiety slows down our decision-making progress. This part of our brain right here, the prefrontal cortex, that's where we're supposed to be making good decisions. When you're anxious, your body kind of skips that part of your brain and it goes back to the more primitive part of your brain, and you get either freeze, you just can't make a decision because you're so anxious, or you just feel like running off.
Interesting. Okay. And so that is going to have a huge impact on your health because of the physical manifestations of anxiety.
Oh, yes. And there are. And it's going to be very similar to what a toxic person can do if we allow them. So, because an anxious body, well, we know it's going to affect digestion. We know that over time, you're going to experience maybe a lot of just gut issues. But I've also seen a lot of unexplainable, even joint pains and just headaches. There's the anxiety that causes you at times to overeat. I'm eating.
Yes, I've seen that a lot in my practice.
I'm eating to feel comfort.
Right.
So,
Food is love. Yeah. Yeah. So, you mentioned about taking back your personal power through the power of forgiveness when it comes to toxic people. Is there a first step when you've recognized, oh my gosh, I think I'm anxious about XYZ? Is there a first step you can take?
Yes, in dealing with I'm anxious because of a person.
Or just anxiety in general. Maybe you just, like you'd mentioned, you wake up in the morning and you just have that dread of, maybe you're going to see that person who pushes your buttons, or maybe you have to make a, presentation at work and get up in front of a, bunch of people. Nobody likes to do public speaking, right?
So, and there are sometimes normal anxieties. If you were just handed a diagnosis, if you were just experienced a loss, or something totally out of your control happened, your response, and it'd be a natural one, is to suddenly feel anxious and your body kind of goes into that anxious state. We just can't live there day after day.
Right.
So anxiety requires a plan. And so one of the things we need to look at, sometimes we don't even know all the things that are creating anxiety. I have over here, a journal. Okay. So even if you said, 15 minutes before I go to bed, and I want you to write out what were the predominant emotions for the day: anger, fear, guilt, shame. But what was?
I'm writing this down.
What was controlling you this day? When I say anger, hurt could be a form of anger. So that whole area. Okay, so anger, fear, anxiety, worry, and then the other category would be guilt. And with guilt, I'd say shame. Things I felt shameful about. But what was the predominant emotions? Write no more than 15 minutes. And on maybe a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really big, what was my anxiety, my anxiousness? How would I rate it? And then the last question just to ask yourself, I just want you to do this for a couple weeks, but the last question to ask yourself is, what did I do with my anxiety? Where did it go? And just make some notes. I guess I stopped every day at a fast food drive-through place and I kind of binged in the car on my way home. I guess that's what I did with my anxiety. So what is it? Yeah. What did you do with it? So really, I just want to increase an awareness and see, this is what's going on. But, just a couple weeks of writing some notes in a journal can be quite enlightening. It's just a place to begin.
Right. So self-awareness.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a client years ago when I was first starting my business, and I'm a certified nutritionist, but she caused me so much anxiety that every time I would see her, I would buy an apple fritter and eat it before I saw her. And I thought finally, after about, I don't know, 6 weeks of that, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a certified nutritionist. I am just like mowing down this apple fritter. This probably, 1,500 calories of just junk food to gear myself up to meet her. And I needed the money. Like I couldn't let her go as a client. And finally, I just thought, this is impacting my health because I'm eating crap that excuse my language, I'm eating stuff I would never, ever eat. So it was such an empowering day when I was able to say, you know what, I'm not the person that you need to be working with, but let me refer you to 3 other people who might be able to handle you better than I can. Good. So it just felt so powerful but similar. I was, kind of taking notes, maybe not at night, but during the day of just like, oh my gosh, I don't like who I'm becoming around her. Yeah.
That's what a great example. So, and I do want to say there is hope if you're feeling anxious and you feel like, man, this feels so overwhelming. Let's just start with some baby steps and we'll build a plan over time. You mentioned the anxiety book, and part of why I put a 12-week plan is it takes a little bit of time. And there reaches a point too where it could feel so unmanageable and you're not functioning well and you know it, that it may be time to ask for some outside help and be willing to get that. That can be important. Sometimes we start to get awareness and we start, okay, I can make some changes, and you do, and you're successful. Other times we need help.
Yeah. And to be able to ask for that help without judgment from the people around you or judging yourself, because we all need help at some point.
We do. And
that's just part of our journey.
Yes. Yeah. This is kind of funny. I have like 100-page book because people like small books now. Our attention span has dropped. But this is how to deal with toxic people. It's like, I don't know, it's like 111 pages. All right.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
But this little book is in airports everywhere, and something about an airport and toxic people, right?
That's great. I need to get a copy of that for my next flight.
But because I have to tell you, I know from experience, we all have these people in our life. We all do.
We do.
And it's something that, and sometimes they sneak in. A toxic person could come as very, I don't know, outgoing or charismatic, and you go, oh, that's a great, and then you kind of get to know them and you go, oh, something's really wrong here. So,
there's something off here. Yeah. But then it feels like it's too late. So, but it's not. It's never too late. And doing the, like you said, the self-care, taking your power back by forgiveness. And I love the idea of the journaling before bed of, okay, what were my primary emotions today? And not, you said put a 15-minute cap on it, because it'd be really easy to just do, 3 hours of, I hate everybody. But putting a cap on it of 15 minutes is probably also
well. And if you feel like keep writing, that tells you something's going on.
Sure does. Yeah, it sure does. So, Dr. Gregg Jantz, always a pleasure to talk to you. I feel like I have certainly had my share of toxic people in my life. I feel pretty toxic free now, which is great. But this is the conversation I wish I could have listened in on in my 20s. So I'm just believing that this conversation is going to be such a blessing to anybody who gives it a listen. So thank you again for coming on.
You're welcome.
Why Did I Get Cancer?
Absolutely, Deborah. And there really is hope. And thank you for all that you do, because you're a voice of hope.
Oh, thank you so much. I love this new mission I'm on.
Yeah, it's a good one. And we need you. And
thank you.
So please continue what you're doing, because what you're doing shows us there really is hope. You've walked it, and you show us that there's another side.
Thank you. On the other side is much joy. Much joy and hope. So thanks, Dr.
Welcome.
Jantz.
Great to be with you today.
I never thought about being a podcast host. It wasn't on my radar. I was a TV nutritionist. I had a private practice and I traveled around the country speaking to people, companies and CEO groups about how to eat healthier so that they could have more energy and achieve more in their lives. And never thought I'd be a podcast host until I got diagnosed with cancer. And at the end of cancer, I just said, oh my gosh, God, what's next? Like, who's going to listen to me now? Honestly, who's going to listen to me now? I go on TV and I preach to thousands about what they can eat to not get cancer. And I felt that still small voice inside say, go look up the website. Why did I get cancer? And I thought, well, that's a good idea. That's what I've asked every oncologist. And I went and I Googled it, and the URL was still available, which honestly is a miracle. God had a plan for me, and this is my mission now, is to teach people what they can do to make themselves stronger against getting chronic diseases like cancer. So here's my ask today, is I am asking you to help me to get this podcast out to more people. Here's how I found out how you do that. You leave reviews and you subscribe to the podcast. So it just downloads and goes right into your queue anytime I release an episode. This helps me, and it helps me get this message out to a lot of people who might really need to hear it. And I always say this is the podcast that I wish I would have had during cancer. And maybe I would have made different decisions in my treatment. Maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know. I don't want to play Monday morning quarterback, but what I do know is that this information is vital to get out to people so that people realize that they have options. And that's one thing with cancer. I felt like I was so many times fresh out of options. And it turns out I wasn't fresh out of options. And I wish I would have had more information. But I do now. And it is my life's work to get it out to as many people as possible. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for leaving me, hopefully, a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. And hit that download button. Thank you. Hey, keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. And if you need medical advice, please reach out to your team. That is going to be just the best source for you because they know you. So again, I hope you enjoyed this podcast.